In Metal Gear Solid Delta, Snake has the ability to pick from many different camos throughout the game to help him out in various situations. Many of these camos have different effects or indexes that make it easier to sneak through enemies or deal with bosses. However, not all camos are created equally. While some camos give you the ability to basically dance in front of guards and sneak by them directly in their face, other camos in the same situation, however, may end up getting you spotted. Some camos also provide basically no benefit during a boss fight, while others can be the difference between life and death. And for players who are new to Metal Gear Solid Delta and are yearning to get a Foxhound rank on Extreme or European Extreme difficulty, often the question will come up, what camos are the best? When should I use them? Why are they useful? Etc. So, I decided I would make a tier list of camos that I think are viable and really good for a Foxhound rank in Metal Gear Solid Delta. Now, I tried to rank camos with the following criteria in mind. This tier list was created in mind with the goal of players getting Foxhound rank, and I tried to evaluate each camo based on the following criteria. Was it useful for stealth, boss fights, or resource management? All of which are very important for Foxhound. The second criteria I had is, how important are good are the camos for the situations that they can be beneficial for? Not all camos, as I mentioned before, are created equally, even if some of them are very similar or may do similar things. I tried to keep this in mind when evaluating camos, even though there is always a bit of subjectivity when it comes to preferences. Lastly, I generally made this tier list with New Game Plus in mind, as most players, for their first playthrough, do not go for Foxhound rank. However, I do talk about how camos may change if you're doing a new game save, as opposed to New Game Plus, but the tier list was made with New Game Plus in mind. Without further ado, let's get started. Okay, let's get started. All of the DLC and post-game clear camos I put in their own tier, not included in any of the excellent, great, good, etc. tiers. I haven't used any of the post-game clear camos. If they end up being really good in certain areas, please let me know. Otherwise, I have not used them. I can't really rank them. DLC I put in its own tier as well, because not every player may have access to the DLC if they did not pay for it. But if you're curious on what I'd actually rank, the sneaking suit and the battle dress go in excellent. They're fantastic for what they do, and yeah, you should use them if you have access to them and the situation calls for it, like a boss fight or a stealth area. Alright, let's start with the naked camo. It is not very useful. It does nothing. It has no benefit. Yeah. Olive drab. Olive drab, and I'm just going to get tiger stripe out of the way. These are general catch-all camos that tend to work in most environments. It's pretty rare you'll have a negative unless you're maybe in mountains or something. So, same kind of thing with Leaf, especially considering a lot of the outdoor environments that Metal Gear Solid Delta takes place in. You tend to do really well with this camo, generally not negative unless there's a very big contrast. None of these have any effects, but they provide good camouflage in most areas in the game, so I put them in great. If you think it should have an effect to be in great, then you can put it in good. That's fine. Tree bark, I find is just not as useful as these other three. It's really good against trees, but even in the jungle, like, at least in my experience, the camo index wasn't as high as I thought it would be compared to Leaf or the others, so it just goes down a bit. Choco chip, this is just not very useful. It'd be really good in the desert and mountains, as it says, but that's only mountains that you really use it in. And Animals Camo does the same thing, except a lot better. So there's no real reason to use this, in my opinion, for a Foxhound run. Splitter, same type of thing. It's kind of obsolete by other camos in the game for the indoor environments. Raindrop, I don't see a scenario where this is useful, despite how cool it looks. It very rarely rains in the game. Squares, it's okay for Razva and maybe one or two other areas, but yeah, like this is kind of pushing it. Honestly, it's probably just not useful. Water, same type of thing. There are two areas, maybe three areas in the game where you're underwater, and You don't really need this for when you're going into the docks. It's just kind of obsolete. Like these would be very niche or otherwise just not good camos that are done better by the stuff here. Tree bark at least gets away with a lot of jungle environments, but you can't say the same for these. Black is good. There's a lot of dark environments where it tends to do well. Obviously during the daytime, it's not very good, or in the mountains, it's not very good. But Groznygrad, it's good. Nighttime, it's good. Yeah, it's good. Snow, I don't know what they were thinking with this. It doesn't snow in this game. There's not a lot of white backgrounds that you'd realistically use this. Yeah, it sucks. Animals. Okay. Fantastic camo. It works really well in the mountains. It does pretty good in some jungle areas. And most notably, the effect is the most important thing. When you wear this, it removes or at least significantly lowers any handshake that you have when readying weapons with low stamina. A lot of speedrunners tend to use this to manage their stamina so they don't have to eat food throughout the run and waste time. You get this by defeating Ocelot non-lethally, so you can get this quite early in a fresh save file or a new game save file. And obviously with New Game Plus, ideally you would have this right away. It makes stamina management not a big concern, which saves you a bit of time, resources, etc. There is a lot of food that you can pick up throughout the game, so it's not like absolute top tier, in my opinion, compared to some of the other camos I'll talk about. But helping with resource management, I think, is a really important part of Delta. And yeah, that's why I think Animals is fantastic. Hornet Stripe, this is just not useful. So it apparently wards off hornets, spiders, and leeches, and allows you to tame hornets. I actually don't think this works against the pain. I'd have to double check, but like I'm fairly certain the one time you would really want to use this, it doesn't work. They'll still attack you, which, okay, like why am I using this then? I think the only other time you're realistically getting attacked by bees is if Ocelot shoots down the beehive in your fight, but if that happens, it's already gone really bad anyway. Spider, I think this camo is so disgustingly busted and amazing. You get this by defeating the Fear, which is about just under halfway through the game, I'd say. It gives you an insane amount of camo index at the cost of draining your stamina like mad. This basically makes you almost invisible to enemies unless you're very close to them, and you'd be spotted in every other scenario anyway. It allows you to skip some really hard sections in the game by basically just walking past everybody. And that's what makes it fantastic. And its downside is kind of offset by there's an abundance of food throughout the game to replenish your stamina, and you can just conserve it for when you need to bypass really tight areas like Warehouse 2, like mountains, the weapons lab, etc. You throw this on, the guards look really stupid because they can't see you. And then you eat something. Or, in conjunction with Animals and Spirit Camo, you can wear Animals if you don't have a guard you can choke out or don't have food to eat. And then you can use Spirit Camo on some guard that you know you can choke out and get full stamina back. So the downside of this camo is offset by the fact, A, there's so much abundant resources for you to get, or B, other camos will complement it really well. I think it's arguably the best camo in the game, at bare minimum top 3. Moss. So this allows you to recharge your stamina, and it's really, really good in Sviatogorny and Sacraveno areas. You get this by holding up the end 3 times during the boss battle. Now, because it's a grassy camo, it's always going to be at least pretty good because a lot of the outdoor environments in Delta. However, like the really high effectiveness, you can get like 100% camo with this in Sacraveno and Sviatogorny. That's only really going to apply against the end in that one area just before we have to shoot like, I don't know, 4 or 5 guards. So, like, technically, I think it's just as good as Leaf, so I have to put it in great, but, like, if you don't have this camo, Leaf will do just fine. Fire. So you get this by defeating the Fury non-lethally. It's okay, and if only by the fact that it helps you fight the Fury, who can be a bit of a tricky boss fight on his own, especially if you don't have good RNG. The pattern is not really going to be useful by the time you get it on a new game save, and even in New Game Plus, it's not really that useful for camouflage. But the fact it does help you with a notable boss fight, I would say, makes it okay as opposed to just not useful. It is the definition of niche, but that niche, I think, is a good one. Spirit. So, I would put this in at least great, and I'll admit my personal bias, I think it's excellent. You get this by reaching the end of the Sorrow's River without dying. So, it completely silences your footsteps, and if you CQC choke an enemy to the point where you knock them out, you will get a full stamina replenish. Even if you're at 0, it will bring your stamina back to full. And this is why all 3 of these camos complement each other really well. Like I said, if you need Spider to bypass an enemy, then you can switch to the Spirit Camo to choke somebody out, or switch to Animals in case you don't have the opportunity to do so, and not really worry about the downsides of having low stamina, or offset them really quick. It's generally an alright camo. It's not that great in the jungle, but like more of the indoor areas, it works really well. And it's also dark, so even during nighttime, you get a pretty good camo index, usually. During a new game run, it would probably go down to great or good because it comes in pretty late, and then generally stamina is not that much of a concern. Maybe if you use Spider in the weapons lab and then Spirit, it could be really good. But even then, if you use this through a New Game Plus routes, I think it becomes fantastic, and all 3 of these camos complement each other so well, and can make some parts of the game that are otherwise really hard to bypass a lot easier. Cold War camo. So this is the definition of niche, but I'm going to put it in great, and I'll explain why in a second. So you get this by defeating Volgan, the first fight, non-lethally. There are 2 sides to this camo. One is the Soviet flag, the other is the American flag. As long as the enemies are facing the Soviet flag, i.e. Snake is facing them, they will not shoot you. And this is amazing for the bike chase, which goes from, I would say, a pretty difficult part for most people in the game, myself included, to a complete joke. It basically becomes a cutscene because the enemies, as long as you don't turn your back to them, will not shoot you, and you can just shoot them with the Mosin or the Mark 22, no problem. Obviously, the camo index itself is pretty bad, especially for like a new game run and even New Game Plus. You would not use this to camouflage yourself. But the fact it stops the enemies from shooting you during that bike chase sequence is such an important part of the game that I put it in great. If you think that's not really consistent with, say, the fire camo being great for the Fury and not much else, I get that. I just really think that the niche that this camo fulfills is so important, despite it only being a small part of the game. It can be a barrier to some people, and this makes it a complete and utter joke. I have heard some people say the Cold War camo, compared to the original game, got nerfed, but I haven't really seen that in my experience. It seems just as effective, maybe a little less, but not enough for me to worry about the bike chase ever. So yeah, like, this is a fantastic camo to have. Snake, it's excellent. Well, for a new game run, it's not useful because you get it quite literally at the end of the game. For New Game Plus, it goes to excellent because you basically will always have a positive camo index of probably anywhere from 15 to 20% in any environment. It means unless you want really high camo for a really specific area, this will provide you good enough camouflage to lower the range the enemies can see you. You get this by defeating the boss at the end of the game non-lethally. So for a New Game Plus run, this is excellent. You can basically throw it on, not worry about, my camo's going to be negative. The only time it's ever going to be at 0, at least in my experience, is when you're climbing a tree. And that'll only be a few areas in the game. Like after you fight the Ocelot unit. So basically, you throw this on, you don't really have to worry about camo management, unless you need, like, high-level stealth, as I mentioned, like with Spider, or like a more intricate area, which with these camos would be better. But it does save you from going into the menu or the quick menu constantly. What are we doing here? Gakko. Wearing it enables you to hear Karoten's calling. Yeah. Fly. I actually didn't know this was in the game. It smells so bad that it attracts flies, but it also makes enemies think twice before coming in for close combat. Yeah, guys, this is, it's just, there's no reason to use this. Desert Tiger. So I think this is great. You can get this by, I think it's selecting I like Metal Gear Solid 2 at the start of a new game save. It has a pretty good camo, generally, in like more tan backgrounds, especially mountains, but even the jungle will usually do okay. Wearing it prevents equipped suppressors from wearing out with use. That's really nice if you struggle with suppressor management or you need to shoot things a lot more because you don't have to worry about your suppressor wearing out. I think it's a great camo. I don't think it's excellent because if you're confident with your ammo pickups in your CQC, you'll generally only need 1 or 2 suppressors, which you can get throughout the game, and generally by the time you get them, it won't be a problem. But I still think it's a really good camo, and it's actually one of my personal favorites otherwise. Excuse me. DPM. So this might be a hot take, but I think DPM is just good. Wearing it doubles your natural life recovery rate. It's also a forest camo, so it would never just be bad, at least. So generally for a Foxhound run, you don't want to get spotted. And that means you're not taking damage from the guards. Because on European Extreme, you just get a game over. And even on regular Extreme, that counts as an alert if you have to fight the guards, and then you're going to reset the save anyway. So you're not taking damage from the guards. You're only taking damage from the bosses, bike chase, or serious injuries that you may have. And you're going to primarily focus on wearing other camos that may reduce your damage as a preventative measure. So ideally, you won't have to get to the point where you need to regenerate your health because you're either taking so little damage, ideally as little damage as possible. And after the fight, this could probably be okay just to get your health up back to speed, but like I said, in between boss fights, you know, it's, you're not going to interact with guards anyway. So you're not taking damage from that avenue, and generally, even without this, by the time you get to the next boss, your health will be you probably at a good enough part where you don't need this. So some people really like it. I think you get it from selecting I like MGS1. So yeah, it's not bad. I just don't think it's as good as some people might think. Flectarn. Wearing it prevents battery drain. This is okay. It's a forest camo, so it's not going to be bad. Actually, I'd have to put in at least good, because it's basically the same as tree bark, except it provides an actual component. You're basically going to use this if you need the thermal goggles for the fear or the end. It's just nice to not have to worry about, you know, oh, the battery ran out, now I don't know where they are, I can't find the end steps, etc. But if you play on Legacy style, at least for the fear, that shouldn't really be a problem. And if you know how to loop the end, it's not that much of a problem. But if you're doing more of a casual Foxhound playthrough, this is nice to have. Yeah, I think it's good. It's just very, very niche otherwise. Oscam. This is great until you get the sneaking suit. You get this by selecting I like MGS1, I believe, at the start on a new game save. Wearing it reduces your damage to 2/3. So that's as long as my math is correct, a 33% damage reduction. It's not good for stealth generally anyway, but being able to take reduced damage against the bosses is always a nice thing. And you'll probably use this on a new game save for the boss fights until you get the sneaking suit, and then you just throw that on. Yeah, it's a great camo. Fantastic to have. Banana. It makes any food taste great. You can get this by I think selecting I like Peace Walker at the start. It's just not very useful because ideally you don't want to eat too much throughout the run, just not to waste time. Although it may not really matter for a normal Foxhound run. But most of the food that you can pick up, like the noodles or the alligators, snakes, etc., they all taste good to great and provide enough stamina replenishment. And like I said, with spirit camo or animals camo, stamina management becomes less and less of a concern. It's just not that useful. It's just kind of obsolete, outclassed, or just it doesn't help with stealth. It doesn't really matter for resource management because either when you would use it, resource management is already easy enough with the food, or you have animals and spirit to just kind of make them not an issue. Grenade. I think this is one of the best camos in the game. You get this by selecting on a new game save file. I like everything in the MGS series. It allows you to use grenades limitlessly. This is fantastic for stealth because you have infinite smokes. It gives you infinite stuns, infinite whatever. You can use it for almost every boss in the game, except for the Fury, Vulcan. I think that's it. But yeah, Ocelot, spam stun grenades. The Pain, infinite smoke grenades. The End, you have both to cover yourself, to stun him so you can get in close. The Fear, like I said, you can stun him. And in Legacy style, that sets up a trap to basically one-hit shot him. You can use it on the boss as well. And so that's good for the boss fights. It takes care of resource management because smoke grenades and stun grenades are limited. You don't have to worry about it now in case you miss one, it doesn't hit the enemy, whatever. And it helps for stealth because it gives you cover. It gives you a get-out-of-jail-free card with smokes because if you accidentally fail to shoot a guard and he's about to radio for backup, throw a smoke grenade at him. That'll give you some leeway to either go knock him out or move into the next room, perhaps remove the caution, etc. Taking out that resource management entirely is really important. And I want to talk about the Pain specifically because in Delta, the Pain got buffed. Where only smoke grenades will destroy his B armor in one grenade. Every other type of grenade takes 2. Which is a really annoying change because, again, you only have 3 smoke grenades. So now, this camo takes away that problem entirely. And it allows you to clear that fight much quicker. Ocelot, as soon as he gets distracted, throw a stun grenade and you get massive damage, and you don't have to worry about managing your stun grenades. They're always going to be there for you. Again, I could go on. I think this is arguably the best camo in the game, if not bare minimum top 3. And even the camo index is fine. It generally won't be negative. It'll be 0, maybe plus 5 or 10. Yeah, this won't really work that well in mountains, but even then, like, it's just such an amazing camo. I can't talk enough about it. It's my favorite camo in the game. Mummy. Wearing it prevents injuries which require bandages to treat. This doesn't matter at all because you're never realistically going to be in a situation where this is useful. Like if you ran out of cure supplies, that's just not happening. Scientist and maintenance, both the same kind of thing. You use them for one section in the game realistically, and they're just not that necessary outside of it. They do well because they fit the niche well. Being able to bypass the guards and then deal with the scientists as you need or the maintenance workers as you need is nice. It's only one very small part of the game and it otherwise has no purpose. So yeah, definition of niche. Officer, same thing. You just needed to progress that one part and that's it. So I can't put it not useful because they do have their uses, but I'm not going to pretend it's like fire would be more useful, you know? The sneaking suit, absolutely one of the best. This is the Metal Gear Solid 3 sneaking suit, to be clear. This cuts all damage in half and reduces your stamina consumption by a fair bit. Yeah, for any boss fight, you throw this on, and it cuts the damage in half. If you don't want to use the Cold War camo during bike chase, this is available to you to make it a fair bit easier. It works for all the bosses in the game. Even when you get it just before fighting Vulcan for the first time, it's still useful for his fights, the bike chase, the Shagohod, and the boss. And if you're doing a New Game Plus run, it's just useful for all the boss fights in general. You could even switch between the sneaking suit and grenade as you need, depending on the strategy. You can't go wrong with the sneaking suit. It's fantastic. It also generally provides good camo for when you need it. Fantastic camo, one of the best in the game. Tuxedo, I'm sorry guys. He looks really nice in the tuxedo, but it sucks. So yeah, that is my Metal Gear Solid Delta camo tier list. I hope you guys enjoy it. I will provide this link in the description so you can make your own camo tier list if you'd like. If you have any different opinions on these camos, or maybe there's something I didn't know about a camo I didn't rank that high, please let me know. I'd love to hear your thoughts. Thank you, and have a great day.